Hi OLA, I am Olivie Blake, the author of The Atlas 6, which is releasing March 1st from Tor Books. I am so excited to have the opportunity to talk to you because I love libraries. Basically my whole, is it too much to say my whole personality, my origin story is built on how important libraries were to me. The first book I ever wrote was like as a child for my local library, and I was always competing for who could read the most books. During the summer, I am not really an outdoorsy person. I'm an indoor cat. So point is, I love being able to talk to you and to just express my absolute enthusiasm for everything that you do. My book is also about a library, potentially a little bit more sinister than the ones you work at. Basically, my book is about the Alexandrian Society, which are the caretakers of lost knowledge from the Library of Alexandria on throughout history. And the book is specifically about the 6 extraordinary magicians who are competing for the opportunity to be initiated and to have, wealth, power, and knowledge beyond their wildest dreams. Unfortunately, there is a catch, and that is that not all of them are going to make it. Most of them, though. Most of them. Hopefully you'll indulge me. This is from Tristan's chapter in part 2, Truth. Atlas saddled Tristan with a look of immense and troubling expectation. "You are more than rare," Atlas said. "You cannot begin to imagine your capabilities, Tristan, because no one has ever known what to do with you, and thus you have never encountered a reason to know. Have you ever studied space, time, thought?" To Tristan's momentary furrow of bemusement, Atlas said, "Precisely. You were educated alongside a group of illusionists, intending only to profit from marketable sleight of hand." Tristan bristled. "Is that what you think I am?" "Obviously not, Tristan, or I would not be standing here trying to convince you otherwise." Tristan considered that a moment. "You make it sound like the game is rigged in my favor," he observed, still guarded, and Atlas shook his head. "Not at all. I know how useful you are. It's your turn to convince the others. The promise of your talents is nothing compared to whatever you ultimately prove to be." At that point, Atlas gave Tristan a curt, inattentive smile, expressing wordlessly that he wished to conclude the conversation. "I can promise you nothing," Atlas said. "I will, in fact, promise you nothing, and whatever you take from this, do not be misled. Nothing I have told you is a guarantee of anything at all. Unlike the others of your initiate class, your power remains largely untested. Your potential is almost entirely unreached, and however unmatched I believe it to be, it will have to be you who brings it to fruition. I am afraid, Mr. Kane, that you will simply have to take the gamble if you wish to reap the reward." Thank you so much for listening and for watching, and again for giving me the opportunity to speak to you, and I hope you enjoy the book.
Hi OLA, my name is Nina de Gramont. I'm the author of The Christie Affair, which comes out on February 1st, 2022. The book is inspired by Agatha Christie's 11-day disappearance in 1926. On the morning of December 3rd, 1926, her husband Archie Christie asked her for a divorce because he wanted to marry his mistress. As you can imagine, she was very devastated by this news, and that night her car was discovered abandoned on the edge of a chalk pit not far from her home. Her suitcase was in the back seat, her driver's license was in the back seat, her fur coat was in the back seat, but she was nowhere to be found, and an enormous hunt, missing person search was launched that lasted 11 days and sparked global headlines until finally she was found in the north of England, in Yorkshire, at a spa hotel, registered under her husband's mistress's last name. The Christie Affair is a fictional imagining of what might have happened during those 11 days. It's narrated by a fictional version of Archie Christie's mistress. And I wanted to write it because it was really moving to me to think of someone like Agatha Christie, who's so admired and so accomplished, and in her photos always cut such a stalwart, admirable picture, to think of her being heartbroken and devastated like the rest of us. My heart goes out to her when I hear the story, and I just thought it would be interesting to humanize her and imagine the ways that she might reconstruct her sense of self and reimagine the way her own life could be once her life as she'd known it had fallen apart. I love thinking of this book in libraries. I was just reading a quote by Jonathan Franzen. I'll paraphrase it. I might not get it exactly right, but he said that reading is where we first learn how to be alone. And for me, libraries were one of the first places I learned to entertain myself. I grew up in Henwood, New Jersey. I used to walk by myself down to the Henwood Library. I had a library card from a very young age and loved to discover writers in the stacks. I remember discovering Edward Egar's The Half Magic down there in the children's room, and later on being in high school and going to the library to procrastinate doing my homework while I was pretending to do my homework and discovering Tender as the Night by Scott Fitzgerald. So nothing is more thrilling to me than imagining somebody procrastinating or looking for their next favorite book and never having heard of the Christie affair and just coming upon it on the library shelf and starting to read it and wanting to read the whole thing. I will read the first paragraph of the book. The first section in the book is called Here Lies Sister Mary, and it begins, "A long time ago in another country, I nearly killed a woman. It's a particular feeling, the urge to murder. First comes rage, larger than any you've ever imagined. It takes over your body so completely it's like a divine force, grabbing hold of your will, your limbs, your psyche. It conveys a strength you never knew you possessed. Your hands, harmless until now, rise up to squeeze another person's life away. There's a joy to it. In retrospect, it's frightening, but I dare say in the moment it feels sweet, the way justice feels sweet." That's the beginning of the Christie affair. Thank you, OLA, and goodbye.
Hi OLA, I'm Tory Henwood Hoen, author of The Ark, which comes out February 8th from St. Martin's Press. This is my debut novel, and it's a satirical love story that centers around the Ark, which is a highly secretive relationship architecture service that uses complex emotional, physiological, and psychological assessments to help its clients find their ideal mates. No swiping necessary. In writing this novel, I wanted to tackle the complexities of romantic wish fulfillment by exploring, is it really possible to optimize a relationship, and is love itself ever guaranteed? My protagonists are Ursula and Raphael, and their love story unfolds in a heightened version of modern-day New York City, where our cultural obsession with self-cultivation and wellness and startup culture and feminism and careerism are all colliding, sometimes in hilarious ways. The world of the Ark invites us to laugh at ourselves and each other, but however satirical, I also wanted this story to be deeply relatable and rooted in real emotion. Of course, I was influenced by my favorite rom-coms and classic love stories, but I also took cues from the worlds of sci-fi and psychological thrillers. Ultimately, I hope it's a story that is great fun to read, but that also prompts profound questions about our relationships to our partners, to our careers, to our culture, and ultimately to ourselves. Personally, I have such fond memories of going to my local library as a child. To me, libraries have always provided such a cozy, welcoming place where I could feel part of a community or where I could just disappear into the books and be by myself. So I'm so thrilled by the idea of new readers discovering my work at their local libraries in both the US and Canada, because I'm actually a dual citizen of both countries. I grew up in the US, but my mother is from Montreal, and I have family all over Canada from Quebec to British Columbia. So thank you so much for helping to introduce me to Canadian readers, and thank you for watching.
Hi, OLA. I'm Paul Holes. I'm a retired cold case investigator out of the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office. Contra Costa County is across the bay from San Francisco, where I did the entirety of my career. I'm best known for my 24-year pursuit that ultimately helped solve the Golden State Killer case. And I know up in Canada, yourselves, your readers have heard about the Golden State Killer case. However, my book is going to provide exclusive details that have never been made public before. My book, Unmasked, My Life Solving America's Cold Cases, is a memoir of my career, and it includes those professional trials and personal tribulations of my pursuit of trying to catch the Golden State Killer. However, I've been involved in so many more cases where I just caught in the middle of the night, to other cases that I inserted myself because I thought I could make a difference. But that dedication and that obsession during my career took a toll on my relationships, my family, and even on myself. And I am a very private person. There's not much known about me out there in the public sphere, in the public domain, but my book is where I open up for the very first time, and it's for better or for worse. Of course, my book details exclusive behind-the-scenes aspects of the investigation that ultimately led to identifying Joseph DeAngelo as the Golden State Killer. And it includes aspects of my relationship with Michelle McNamara, who tragically passed away before the case was solved. But I've been involved in so many more cases that are well known and cases that many people have never heard of before. Cases such as Laci Peterson and my role in that investigation, and then what was going on in my life during that period of time. Or another case like J.C. Dugard and what I did in that situation. But there are other cases that are not as well known. Cases that are equally as tragic, but the stories are fascinating, including a case where a father and his 12-year-old son are executed in the middle of the day in their own house. And one of the investigative thrusts has national security implications that pitted the Canadian government against the United States. And then there's another case, a series of women that were being killed. One of these women was a 15-year-old girl, and they were killed by the worst kind of serial predator imaginable, a sexual sadist. This is my white whale. This is a case that haunts me to this day. And there's even a case after I retired, after all the notoriety I gained of helping identify Joseph DeAngelo as the Golden State Killer. There's a case after I retired that just rocked me to my core. And I talk about that and why I struggled with that case. So these are cases, and the details of these cases and the stories that the public is going to be hearing details about for the very first time in my book. And why did I choose to write a book? Initially it was, well, everybody wants to hear about Golden State Killer. But as I reflected upon my career, I recognized that, oh my God, all these cases, I've had a very unusual career, and being exposed to such a dynamic series of unusual cases that it was like a roller coaster ride or watching a series of movies. And I thought, people need to hear about these cases. They want to know about these cases and the stories, but they also are probably going to want to know, well, what impact do these cases have on the individual, such as myself, that work them? And all the up and down psychological aspects that are present for those that are trying to solve these cases and get family members of the victims an answer. And I know there's a lot of these online sleuths, the people sitting behind a keyboard that are trying to work cases, but they're not there at the crime scene. They're not there looking at the dead body. They're not there hearing the victim's mom wail in the background. They don't experience that same psychology, that same trauma that those of us like myself that are actually out there. And that's one of the important things that I want readers to get out of my book, is to understand what working these types of cases, the impact these types of cases have had on me. So as I go through and talk about these cases, I detail some of my own personal struggles very openly, uncomfortably openly. However, I think it's important for people to recognize that there are men and women out there, just like myself, who make these types of sacrifices. And yet, even though this has had a traumatic impact on my life, I continue to seek out these cases. And why? Because it's what I do. It's what I'm good at. It's my calling. So thank you.
Hi OLA, I'm Eva Jurczyk, the author of The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections, coming January 25th from Sourcebooks Poison Pen Press. And how fitting that I'm coming to you on the coldest day of the year as snow gently falls behind me. That's a very OLA weather forecast. I've been shaped by the libraries in my life, both real and fictional, like almost no other force. The Woodlands branch of the Mississauga Public Library, the steps up to the bookshelves at Sunnydale High, the first floor study desks at York University Scott Library, card catalog drawer in the Breakfast Club, and of course, the Cathedral of Books at the Thomas Fisher Rare Book Library. And I'm excited to offer my own entry into the realm of great libraries with this novel. The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections follows the professional and private life of Lizz Weiss as she's promoted to the head of her library under dreadful circumstances. The 40-year-old library was founded by a charismatic man of letters, and now, amid a scandal that threatens the library's reputation, Lizz is reminded at every turn that she'll never measure up to the library's legendary leader. First, a book goes missing, then a librarian does, but Lizz is told at every turn to keep up appearances, to keep the doors open, and to keep the donors happy. The book's driven by a protagonist at a stage in her life where women sort of become invisible. And the library's history and the motivations of its librarians are revealed until Lizz learns that nothing in the place is as it looks. In Rare Books, a librarian learns her worth, and readers are taken behind the scenes of the downright strange world of a Rare Books library. I'm not going to tell you anymore because spoilers, but it has missing books and love affairs and all sorts of good stuff like that. It's not an exaggeration to say that the idea of my book on a library shelf is one of the most meaningful things to come out of this whole publishing a novel craziness. I'm a bit embarrassed to share this, but promise we'll keep it just between us. For the last couple of months, it's possible that I've been curiously clicking through to the websites of different library systems to see if my book was listed yet. Back in the summer, in August, the Windsor Public Library already had 7 holds for my book. 7 for my little book. That's 7 readers that might discover a new favorite fictional library because of the support that librarians like you have given my book. There's nothing more meaningful than that. I really hope that you love the strange librarians in the Department of Rare Books and Special Collections as much as I do. Thank you so much for sharing my book with your readers.
Hi OLA, I'm Scarlett St. Clair, author of the Hades and Persephone series and King of Battle and Blood, both from Bloom Books. King of Battle and Blood is my most recent release and is a dark fantasy enemies to lovers romance. My current work in progress is A Game of Retribution, which is Hades' point of view of A Touch of Ruin. The awesome thing about my companion series, the Hades Saga, is that the books from his point of view all have a different plot, and A Game of Retribution is no different. The book centers around Hades' fragile relationship with Hera, the goddess of women. After Hades refuses to help her overthrow Zeus, she challenges him to 12 labors, ranging from killing mythical monsters or recovering deadly artifacts. All the while, he's trying to maintain balance in his personal life, and the struggle is real. One of my favorite scenes from the book so far is this interaction between Hades and Hermes. One of Hermes' character traits is that he tries often and fails to use human idioms. The scene goes something like this. "Has anyone ever told you you need therapy?" asked Hermes. He had, in fact, told Hades often. Pot, meet kettle, Hades replied. Hermes straightened and narrowed his eyes. Since when did you start using mortal expressions? I thought you might appreciate it, Hades said. Well, I don't, Hermes said, crossing his arms over his chest, but after a moment he dropped them. What does it mean? It means, said Hades, that you are a hypocrite. It goes on from there, but of course I'll save the rest for when it releases on May 30th. I can't wait to hear what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!
Hi OLA, my name is Eva Chen and I'm the author of I Am Golden, out February 1st from Fywell and Friends. I wrote I Am Golden to be the book that I never had growing up. This book is an ode to the immigrant experience. My parents are immigrants, and a manifesto for Chinese American joy. I wanted to write a book that reflected the joy and pride that I feel in being Chinese American, and really have this book be a learning tool and a conversation starter for parents as they talk about cultural identity and racial identity with their children. I wrote this book during COVID, and I remember the first time I heard the phrase China virus and calling my parents and telling them to wear hats and scarves and sunglasses and to not speak Chinese on the street because I was frankly terrified for them during the meteoric rise in Asian hate crimes. And so I wanted to write a book that was an antidote to that, to counter that, to show pride and joy in the Chinese experience. And I hope that you guys love it. I'm really excited to read it to you. I've only read it once before. And so without further ado, here's the book, I Am Golden. We named you May, not May like the month, May, which means beautiful, like the country we live in now, 美国, America. What do you see when you look in the mirror, May? Do you see beauty? We see eyes that point toward the sun, that give us the warmth and joy of 1,000 rays when you smile. We see hair as inky black and smooth as a peaceful night sky. We see skin brushed with gold. We see the hopes and dreams of your ancestors when we look at you. We journeyed into the unknown to give you a new path to trailblaze. In this upside-down world, clever child, you have become our teacher and translator. Our words won't always be enough to comfort you, and we won't be able to be with you every step of the way. We know you feel alone sometimes. People tell you you're different and that you can't be one of them. But we promise there is power in being different. Are you ready, brave May, to hear about your secret power? You are never alone. You carry a golden flame inside you, and it's always with you. You are made of dragons, of phoenixes, of jade rabbits, and of monkey kings. You are the lotus flower unfurling, triumphant and bright in the darkest water. You are the first bamboo stalk piercing the soil that will overtake the sky. Your voice is the call of the magpie, joyful and unapologetic. It's a strange world we live in. People will call you different with one breath, and then say we all look the same with the next angry breath. But they don't know that each of our golden flames flickers distinctly, that our stories are infinitely unique. We are artists, scientists, athletes. We are dancers, teachers, inventors. We are architects, actors, writers. You can hear all our stories when we gather as a family. There will be celebrations. Oh, we love to celebrate, with plate upon plate of delectable deliciousness that will tickle all your senses. The hot pop and sizzle of garlic in a wok, the lazy curls of steam from freshly kneaded bao, the sesame balls that will leave your fingers slick and sweet. We gather to hope, to dream, and to sing your praises, May. To send love to your Popo and Gong who are not in Meiguo with us. To pay tribute to those we've loved and lost along the way as oceans and worlds and cultures separated us. Have we taught you the word Ming yet? It means destiny, May. Our destiny was you. Our Ming is to be the keepers of your flame, to guide you as best we can. We see you. We see your golden heart. You are beauty, but so much more. You are strength. You are power. You, May, are golden. Say it with us. Believe it. I am golden. Thank you so much, OLA. Thank you for everything you do for children, for libraries, for literacy, and thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Hello, Ontario librarians. I'm Ferrie. I'm the author of Quantum Physics for Babies. And I've written many children's science books, and I've also written some adult nonfiction, including Where Did the Universe Come From and Other Cosmic Questions. And my latest book is a kid's book, and you might think of it as the kids' version of this one. It's called Where Did We Come From? I'll read from this book for you today, but because there's green on the book and there's this ugly green screen behind me, I can show you a few tricks that I've learned from moving into the digital world. So I can do things like this, or I can even do things like this. But I think more appropriately, we'll go with this. All right. Where did we come from? First, the quark. Then, the particle. First, the atom. Then, the molecule. First, the sun. Then, the solar system. First, the earth. Then, the life. First, the gene. Then, the mutation. First, the fit. Then, the fittest. First, the tribe. Then, the civilization. First, the love. Then, the child. First, the school. Then, the degree. First, the practice. Then, the expertise. First, the scientist. Then, the theory. First, the hypothesis. Then, the plan. First, the experiment. Then, the data. First, the particle. Then, the quark. And that's the end. But in the actual book, and I'm going to switch back to the green screen so I can show you the pages. In the back of the book, there are scientific explanations of all the things that were seen in the book. I won't read all of this to you now. But we explain that some of the pictures, which are a bit abstract, like an atom and a molecule, that molecule that we saw was a water molecule, H2O. So all of the pictures are explained in the back of that book. Back to the library. And speaking of libraries, I can remember as a child in my public library, so the Chatham Public Library in Southern Ontario, as well as the library in my elementary school, Tecumseh Public School, were some of my favorite places, and it's where I went to read all sorts of informational books and magazines and atlases. I remember looking at atlases endlessly, scientific magazines. I would always go straight for the nonfiction section, so I think it's no wonder that I'm writing nonfiction books and that I became a scientist myself. And it's really thanks to people like you who helped children like me find those things that we were really craving and looking for. So I thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the book, and I hope to be back in Ontario someday soon. All right. Bye, everyone.
Hi, my name is Liz Huerta. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the author of The Lost Dreamer, which is out March 1st, 2022 from FSG Books for Young Readers. The Lost Dreamer is a secondary world fantasy which is informed by pre-contact Mesoamerican cultures. It's the book that I wanted and craved and needed when I was growing up, and it didn't exist. I was a voracious reader, a fantasy nerd, and I never saw my ancestry represented. The Lost Dreamer is a story of two young women, Indir and Saya, who both have the same gift, the ability to enter a different dimension when they go to sleep at night, called the dream, and there they're able to receive information and bring it back for their communities. Both of these young women are in a major identity crisis and trying to figure out how to define themselves outside of and within their gifts. I actually edited a lot of this book at my childhood library. I've been going there for over 40 years and I still go there. Libraries are absolutely beautiful, sacred places, and our world would not be the same without them. I am going to read you a little excerpt from my book. This is from the perspective of Saya, one of the dreamers. The dream was different, brighter, the colors even sharper than I had known they could be, and there were voices calling, shouting. Some were laughing, others screamed. A small panic rose in me, but I pushed it down. It was the dream. I had always been safe there. I reached up to touch my necklace, a habit, but I felt nothing. I saw a face hovering in front of me for a moment, teeth ripping through the fabric of the dream, splitting it. I couldn't make out the details, but I didn't want to. It felt malevolent. I closed my eyes and wished myself elsewhere safe. Around me, the dream pulsated in answer, and I felt myself being pulled. I landed on ground made of cut and fit stone, some sort of large temple. I looked around, gasping in wonder. Carved tiles covered the stone walls around me. An altar was set up in the corner, a flame burning in front of a small bowl set before twisted shapes I couldn't identify. They seemed to be dancing. I heard footsteps running toward me. I pressed myself to a wall, wishing again to be somewhere safe, but I remained. Shadows moved at an entryway I hadn't noticed. Two women came in and stood stunned before me. Their hair was arranged in a strange braided style I had never seen. Neither of them spoke, though one moved toward me, her arms outstretched. They looked alike. I realized they were sisters. I shrank back, begging the dream to release me. Thank you so much. I hope that your readers love this book as much as I do.
Well, greetings to the Ontario Library Association. This is Bill McKibben. I'm the author of We Are Better Together, which is coming out April 5th from Goodwin Books. It is a particular pleasure for me to get to talk with you because though I am an American, I spent the years from kindergarten through grade 4 in Toronto at Northleigh Public School in Leaside, and the local library was the first library I got to know, and that was an important institution in my life. So it is really great to be able to be with you today, and really great to be able to imagine young people who have not always been my main audience getting to have this book read to them someday in one of your libraries. I'm going to read just from the very end of this book, which is a book about the theme of this book is cooperation. The fact that if we're going to deal with the troubles that afflict this planet, we're going to have to do it together. So we live on an unbearably beautiful planet, a planet that needs us humans to play together, to cooperate. We're capable of acting together to do remarkable things. So we'd best get started soon. I'm so grateful to Stevie Lewis for the beautiful illustrations that went with this. And I'm so grateful to the publishers who thought that there was some reason to try and let young people understand that working together is what we're going to have to do. And so grateful to you all for your work in libraries, which are the ultimate vindication of the idea that we can share things in profound ways, that we really can work together. Thank you for all your work.
Hi everyone, I'm Tyler Page. I am the author and artist of Button Pusher, and this is a book about me being diagnosed with ADHD as a child and what it was like to grow up with ADHD. I primarily made this book because of my kids. I didn't think much about my own ADHD after I was out of high school until I started to have some problems again in my 20s, and I was re-diagnosed as an adult. So when my daughter was very young, my wife and I kind of started to joke about how much her behavior seemed like how I was as a kid. And even when my mom would come to visit, she would kind of make the same remarks. And so suddenly I was spending all of my free time doing research on ADHD. And that experience turned into me writing my previous book called Raised on Ritalin, which was geared more towards an older audience and more research-based. And every time people would read it, they would say, this is great, but what about something for kids, something for a younger audience? And every time that they would bring that up, I would immediately think of this one moment when I was in first grade. And the more I thought about it, it was that memory that kind of helped me find my way into writing a story for a younger audience, into writing Button Pusher. And so now I want to read through that section of the book for you. We find Tyler at school. Okay, let's go over the answers for these problems I put on the board. The next answer is, and someone says 7, and the teacher says, yes, 7, good job. And then the teacher continues speaking, but quickly fades out. Okay, and then the next, as we see Tyler's attention kind of wander, he pays attention to a globe, a map on the wall, a jar of pens and pencils, and then a bug on the windowsill. Tyler turns around to his classmate. There's a big bug over by the window. Tyler, says his teacher. Let's pay attention, please. Okay, on to the next problem. But then Tyler notices that his pencil is broken, so he gets up. Tyler's sharpening his pencil. Tyler? Oh, sorry. And so Tyler winds his way back to the classroom. He doesn't go straight to his desk. He has to walk through the entire room, as the teacher says. And the next one was 11 minus 4. And then we find Tyler over by the snake cage. Tap, tap, tap. Tyler, please, I'm not going to ask you again. So finally Tyler is sitting down, looking like he's about to concentrate. And then he notices something. Tyler leans down to tie his shoe. And then the teacher says, and that's it. Let's see how everyone did. So their lesson is over. Tyler looks at his paper and thinks, gosh, I didn't get any right. What did I do? The teacher comes over. And how about you, Tyler? I got them all wrong. What happened here? It looks like you added them all. The teacher points at the board. We've been talking about subtraction all morning. That's what we were doing up on the board. What have you been doing? Oh, says Tyler. I guess I didn't notice. This became a pattern during my early school years. The teacher saying, Tyler, please, it's time to stay in our seats. Tyler sharpening his pencil for the 5th time. It's not visiting time, Tyler. Please stop interrupting Nathan and do your worksheet. Blah, 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 blah. Tyler, you're supposed to be doing your reading work now, while Tyler is playing with clay. Stuff like that was always happening, the teacher says. Ahem, while Tyler is drawing a picture of Batman. It wasn't that I didn't like school, but that I often had my own ideas about how to spend my time. The teacher says, Tyler, I'm in the middle of a story, as Tyler walks away with an idea. And because of that, I often didn't finish my work on time. The teacher says, you have to stay in from recess and finish your work. Both of my parents were big readers, but it was my mom who took my brother and I to the library all the time, especially during the summers between school. We would always do like the summer reading programs and go to all the public events that they had. And libraries were just always and have always been a big part of my life. I've continued that tradition as a parent now, taking both of my kids to the library when they were younger. And they're now both big readers and storytellers and creators in their own rights. So I want to just say thank you for all the work that you're doing. Libraries are a great resource in our society. and I don't know what I would have done without them. Thank you.
Hi, OLA, and hello to all the librarians out there. My name is Young Vo, author and illustrator of Gibberish. Published by Levine Cordero, Gibberish is about a refugee kid named Dad. Dad is going to a new school in a new country where he doesn't speak the language. Everyone from the bus driver, the teacher, and his new classmates all sounded like gibberish. It was gibberish, 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 gibberish. Dad felt like everyone knew something he didn't. Ever felt like that? Then Dad met someone who didn't care about gibberish, but cared if he could play, and Dad could play. But back in the classroom, his words still broke. Well, a lot of people ask me if Dad's experience was mine growing up. And the answer is yes. As a refugee kid from Vietnam in America, the language I'm speaking sounded like gibberish. To know how the book ends, you need to go to your local library. I briefly want to talk about why I love making picture books. My very first experience with picture books was at the library. Every Thursday, my class would take us to the library. It was for story time. Every time the librarian would finish reading a page, she'll turn the book over and show us the pictures. And to me, it was like a magic trick. It really helped me able to put the words to the pictures, and I loved it. And it really helped me decipher all the gibberish that I was hearing. So, thank you, librarians, and thank you for listening.